When I was homeless, sleeping on the street, on benches, beneath a tarp by the side of the road, and behind bushes, also beneath a tarp, I learned a few things. I learned that if you smell bad and haven't been washed, and also happen to look like you're outside, people will not look at you like a human being. I go outside looking unwashed today, even though I shower almost every day. Usually it's every other day, but sometimes it's literally every single day. I put deodorant on before I go out. I always make sure my hair and nails are groomed properly and all this shit. And I still look like kind of a messy guy. But the difference is I look substantially more messy when I'm in a set of conditions where I don't have access to a lot of the basic things. If I don't put hydrocortisone cream on my face 2 times a day, every single day, my face will just become completely red and my skin will start peeling off. That's, medically speaking, a thing that I have to do. And the type of hydrocortisone cream, the higher strength one, is only available by prescription. The one that's actually on the market on store shelves is not as high strength as the one that my doctor would give me. And so these are problems that I ran into where I ended up just looking progressively and quite quickly more and more rugged, and as a result I was looked at by passers-by as like this problem, this piece of filth that needed to be flushed down the drain. In spite of the fact that I was not using drugs, I was not lazy, I was actively looking for a job, but I was looked at as someone who needed to be done away with. I was dehumanized. And the way that you're treated, not just looked at, as a result of those prejudices that people have, those biases that people have, is equally interesting to me. There came a point when I had to charge my phone just so I could go to the library, because I needed instructions to the library so I could walk there and print off my bus ticket. I needed to go there to do that, and I was in the post office trying to charge my phone so I could do exactly that. And 2 guys walk in and they're making comments about how, oh, this one's not loud today, is he? Oh no, at least he's not making any noise. Seems like he's just doing his own thing. I've never seen one like this before. They were making comments like this about me. I was just trying to charge my phone. And the 2 of them were having a laugh about it, but at least relatively it seemed inoffensive because they weren't trying to literally make me leave. And then they go on to do their work, and after a while, a woman comes out of the front of the post office and she says, you have to be a paying customer to be here. You can't loiter. And I'm just thinking, how do you know I don't have a P.O. box here, lady? There's people who look like me who have been sleeping on the street who have P.O. boxes. How do you know that I'm not a paying customer? What gives you the right to say such a thing? And because she had just accused me of a crime, which was loitering, I just quickly apologized and left. But I should have gave that bitch what for. Looking back, I should have blown up at her. I should have said, how do you know I'm not a paying customer? What gives you the right to tell me, you haggerty old bitch? That's what I should have told her. And given the developmental changes that I've had since then, I know that if I were in a situation like that now, I would respond like that. And she would deserve it. She would 100% deserve it for speaking to me like that, because I'm not below you just because I'm poor and don't have a house. The idea that just because you're poor and don't have a house, you deserve to be spoken to like that, when I was literally just charging my fucking phone. It's absurd. It's insane. But they don't want to be around that. You have to make yourself look as presentable as possible, given the circumstances. Even though you'll still be looked down on, even though you'll still be treated like shit, you'll be treated like that, no doubt. You have to make yourself look presentable. So a gym, for example, will have showers that you can use. If you pay $30 a month for gym membership, you can shower there. And that will help you keep your appearance, which will make it easier to get a job. If you cut your hair to as short as it can go, that will make it easier to maintain your appearance. And when you're in those showers, you have the opportunity to do things like skin care to trim your nails and take care of yourself. These are all going to be things that are really crucial, because you have to not look like you are where you are. You have to try as hard as possible to not look like you are where you are. And back when I was homeless, it was hard enough for me to do that when I actually had a house. Back then, when I actually had a place to live, it was hard enough for me to do the basic hygiene maintenance stuff because I was extremely depressed and I didn't have discipline. These days, it's not difficult for me to do that stuff. I know how to do it. But if you combine the years of neglect from my parents, never teaching me how to do this stuff, basically just letting me get away with whatever I wanted to do in regards to hygiene, they just didn't teach me, they didn't look after me. If you combine those circumstances with having very little job history, no education, really wanting a job but having no idea how to maintain one without becoming suicidally depressed and having to be institutionalized, it becomes really difficult to get off of the street. And I was in a situation where I felt like I had no good alternative, like there was nothing I could do, because I didn't want to go home. At home, I was being abused. At home, there were extremely sketchy, dangerous people doing, and as much as I hate this word, to be frank, degenerate things inside of that home. It was not a safe environment to be in. And so I literally felt safer on the street than in there. And I felt like it was better being there than it was living with my dad. I was correct in assuming that. But you have to do these things when you're out there. You have to find some way to maintain your appearance to make it appear like you're not out there. Even just getting a storage locker to place your belongings in so that you're not always carrying them with you can change your appearance to therefore change how other people will treat you. You need to blend in as much as possible because people's biases about those who are homeless are extremely strong. They view simply not having a house, simply not having a job, to be an antisocial act. And what does antisocial behavior beget? Antisocial behavior begets antisocial behavior. So it's reciprocal, or at least that is how they perceive it. So they see someone who they see as antisocial, unsympathetic, lazy, unwilling to do what's necessary. And then they see that as a get out of jail free card to treat someone like shit, to dehumanize someone. And deep down, a lot of these people want to do this to other people throughout their day. They just don't have an easy excuse. But there are excuses right there. They make sense on an intuitive level to those people who don't have the context, who don't understand that there are all of these external factors that lead to someone being in that position in the first place. That few people actually want to be in that position. They don't see all of that, and so they end up interpreting any sign whatsoever that someone is in that position as a sign that they're antisocial and must be treated in an equally antisocial fashion, just because they exist. So you have to give out pro-social signals, and you do that by maintaining yourself to the best of your ability. So that's getting gym membership, that's having a storage locker, that's getting the supplies to be clean. But doing those things, that's going to be exceedingly difficult when you have no income stream. I was lucky enough to be able to go on YouTube and say, hey guys, I don't have any money. Please send me money. And people actually did. And so I could get access to those things. I could get access to necessity goods. Other people don't have the luxury that I had. As time went on, I go to the mental hospital after going psychotic. I get a phone call from my mom and she tells me that she has a new apartment. And eventually I go back to live with her because finally I don't have to live with my dad, who was bringing all these meth heads and felons and convicted sex offenders around my home to basically turn it into a crack house. That's what he turned our home into. I didn't have to live around that anymore because my mom had a place. So I could go to her place, and that's what I did, but that wasn't before having a psychotic break and having to be hospitalized and disappearing for a little while. But that was the short stint in homelessness that I had. And it taught me a lot about how people see the homeless. It also taught me a lot about how you should do it. You need to appear as not homeless as humanly possible. And then maybe you'll have a fighting chance. But as to how you actually do that when you're in a position where you have no physical address, it's really difficult because the shelters that were around where I was required you to be in at a certain time and out at a certain time, which gives you very little leeway to have a job. A job is going to be on a set schedule, and that may conflict with the schedule of the shelter that you're in. And so, do you sleep on the street or do you sleep in the warm shelter that might actually be full? It's sort of a first come, first serve thing. But you might even have to choose between shelter and work when you want to work to get out of your situation. So then what do? It taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about how all this works. And I know that if I ended up in a situation where I had to live that way again, I now am ready for it because I now know what to do.